Some songs leave you wondering about how to interpret them, with vague lyrics that allow the listener's mind to wander, landing on his or her own ideas about what the writers could mean. And then there are some songs that are more straightforward, stories told of a time, a place, or an event that moved the writers to put what happened down in lyrics, as plain as day. That is the case in one of rock's cornerstone songs, a song with a guitar riff that you know within seconds of hearing it. A riff that seemingly has to be conquered by every aspiring rock guitarist, too. Smoke on the Water by Deep Purple. It tells a story of an actual event that happened on December 4th, 1971. Truly a song that was created in flames. If you get something out of this episode, give it a like at the end. Or if you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Deep Purple, of course, have long been vaulted into what many call the holy trinity of British hard rock and heavy metal, along with Led Zeppelin and Black Sabbath. Their music and style have inspired countless bands behind them, and the album that did much of that inspiration is the classic Machine Head, their sixth album, released in March of 1972. Machine Head features what is widely regarded as the classic lineup of the band, even though it wasn't the first lineup, having already gone through personnel changes since their beginnings in London in 1968. That classic lineup consists of founding members Ritchie Blackmore on guitar, John Lord on keyboards, and then Roger Glover on bass, Ian Gillan on lead vocals, and Ian Pace on drums. Incidentally, Ritchie Blackmore is the person responsible for the name Deep Purple, and it's a surprisingly sweet tribute. Deep Purple is actually the title of an old piano instrumental that happened to be his grandmother's favorite song. By the time this lineup were ready to record the Machine Head album, they had decided that they wanted to capture a sound similar to their live shows. So they booked the famous Rolling Stones mobile studio to record it at the Montreux Casino in Switzerland, on the shores of Lake Geneva. The Montreux Casino was just about to be closed for the winter, where it would then be used as a rehearsal space for bands. This was the venue for the famous Montreux Jazz Festival, which was created by music promoter Claude Nobbs, a fantastic and well-loved character who makes a significant appearance in the lyrics of Smoke on the Water. So here's the story. Shortly before the recording sessions for Deep Purple were to take place, Frank Zappa and the Mothers of Invention played a concert at the casino. About 90 minutes into the set, a fan fired a flare gun into the rafters of the venue, which caused the heating system to ignite. Frank Zappa alerted the crowd that there was a fire, and everyone ran for the doors. The fire raged, eventually burning the Montreux Casino to the ground, while Deep Purple watched in shock from their hotel room. Zappa, his band and crew, the venue employees, and all of the fans in attendance got out of the blaze alive. While some were injured, there were no fatalities, and this was due in part to a couple of things. There were no chairs or seating, so the crowd didn't have to fight past chairs to get to the exits, and to the fact that Claude Nobbs was a very brave man. He was seen down in the basement of the venue trying to lead out fans who had become trapped there to escape the flames. It was a horrific event that returned to Deep Purple bassist Roger Glover in a dream a few days after the fire. He said that it was the biggest fire he had ever seen in his life, a huge building that went up like a fireworks display. The smoke from the fire spread out over Lake Geneva, and he saw it again in his dream. When he woke up, the title of the song had come to him. Smoke on the Water perfectly encaptured the imagery of the flames that almost took the entire town. And as for that famous riff, Ritchie Blackmore claims that the riff is his interpretation of an inversion of Symphony No. 5 by Beethoven, and he's joked that for that riff he owes Beethoven a lot of money. The riff is written in fourths, which is unusual. It's a style that harkens back to medieval times. And Ian Pace has said that the riff is really so special because no one had done it before up to that point. Come up with something that he calls so satisfying and gloriously simple. The riff gave life to the title that was created by Glover after his dream after that fire. And Smoke on the Water was born. And the lyrics start like this. We all came out to Montreux on the Lake Geneva shoreline to make records with a mobile. We didn't have much time. Frank Zappa and the Mothers were at the best place around. But some stupid with a flare gun burned the place to the ground. Smoke on the water, fire in the sky. They burned down the gambling house. It died with an awful sound. Funky Claude was running in and out, pulling kids out the ground. When it was all over, we had to find another place. But Swiss time was running out. It seemed that we would lose the race. Smoke on the water, fire in the sky. In these lines, the band paid tribute to their friend, Claude Nobbs, who has since passed away after a skiing accident in 2013. The fire happened before the recording sessions were to take place, and Deep Purple suddenly found themselves with nowhere to record. Nobbs stepped in to help. And after searching for a replacement venue, the Machine Head album was finally recorded, for the most part, in a hallway in the vacant Grand Hotel, which was nearby. It being winter, heaters had to be brought into this building, and mattresses were placed up against the windows to help insulate the sound, with cables running out to the Rolling Stones mobile studio parked outside to capture the takes. It was difficult, according to the band, and cold, and recording for Smoke on the Water was actually moved to a vacant theater in town called the Pavilion. The band finally recorded the song in just one night, in less than 4 takes, because the police showed up to stop them from making so much noise. The sound was echoing around Montreux, ringing off the mountains surrounding the town and keeping the townsfolk awake. But by the time they were made to leave by the police, they had recorded their most famous song. And the song ends with these lyrics telling the tale. We ended up at the Grand Hotel. It was empty, cold, and bare. But with the rolling truck Stones thing just outside, making our music there. With a few red lights and a few old beds, we made a place to sweat. No matter what we get out of this, I know we'll never forget. Smoke on the water, fire in the sky. The Montreux Casino was rebuilt in 1975, and the fire is commemorated by a sculpture on the lakeside right below the casino. Just down the way is a statue of Freddie Mercury of Queen, another band who chose to record in Montreux. In fact, Queen made 7 albums there, including their collaboration with David Bowie on the song Under Pressure. Glover has said of Smoke on the Water that he and the band never thought the song was going to be anything special at all. In fact, he says they thought it was a kind of mid-tempo, almost boring song recorded in a few takes with very little time. But of course, it turned out to be something very different. When the Machine Head album was released, DJs started playing Smoke on the Water immediately, even though it wasn't released as a single at first. The song went to number 4 on the Billboard Pop Singles chart in the US in 1973, and it went to number 1 in the UK. Machine Head became the band's second album to hit number 1. Ritchie Blackmore's riff was learned by every kid who bought a guitar, and the song was included in Rolling Stone magazine's 500 Greatest Songs of All Time in 2004. In the years following, many lineup changes happened in the band. Gillan quit, Glover was fired after clashes with Blackmore, and this was in the band's peak years just after the success of Machine Head. Paul Rodgers was asked to be the frontman after Gillan's departure, but he declined because he was starting Bad Company at the time. That resulted in a then unknown David Coverdale becoming the lead singer for Deep Purple. Blackmore eventually left the band in 1975 to form Rainbow with Ronnie James Dio, and in 1976, the band announced they were breaking up. They reunited in the 80s, but tensions arose again, and by the early 90s, Blackmore left again to be replaced by Joe Satriani. Further lineup changes took place over the years following, and the late John Lord, who passed away in 2013, retired from Deep Purple before that in 2002. Of the classic lineup that made the Machine Head album, only Ian Gillan, Roger Glover, and Ian Pace currently remain as members. Deep Purple released their 22nd album in 2021, a covers album titled Turning to Crime. Deep Purple were finally inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2016 by Lars Ulrich of Metallica, who had very vocally lobbied for the band to be honored as inductees. Unbelievably, Ritchie Blackmore did not attend the ceremony over a disagreement regarding the band's scheduled performance, among other reasons. But in his glowing speech welcoming Deep Purple to the Hall of Fame, Ulrich said this of the song Smoke on the Water: "Think of it as a big, heavy door into a legacy without end, one that remains as vital as ever, blowing minds and still changing lives." The song and the band certainly deserve their place in rock history, moving the needle on shaping the sound of music like smoke rolling over the water. Unstoppable, combustible, and most certainly rock and roll. I'm Janda, and this has been Behind the Song. Special thanks to Christian Lane for all the music you hear on these podcast episodes. If you liked it, give it a like, leave a review, or better yet, tell a friend. And if you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. You can also follow Behind the Song podcast on TikTok. Thank you for being a part of the Behind the Song family. On the way, a unique song by an artist with Irish roots and much more. Classic rock and roll.